How's it going, guys? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting. Welcome back to Muv-Luv Monday. Last time we were here, we're seeing some interesting developments. Some very interesting developments. We had Asumi kind of being forced to confront her unresolved feelings about her family, mostly her older sister, but also the man she fell in love with, her younger sisters, and just everything. While she was able to keep it cool in front of Marimo, we can tell that in her psyche she's still very, very much like in upheaval about all the stuff around her family, and that's been tough to see. But when waking from a nightmare that was kind of revealing that to us, she also woke into a different kind of nightmare. A lovely nightmare, a wonderful one, but one that could totally destroy YouTube stuff. I had to do some cover-ups because she was overhearing odd sounds and audio clips, I guess, well, more like just odd sounds in general from some of her bunkmates. And she thought of I think it was a natural way for the mind to go, but oh boy, were those pictures great and terrible at the same time. So we brought back the coconuts and the peach of rear because I didn't want to risk it. I mean, good grief. Like, just a few episodes ago on this very series, I had a thumbnail that got flat out rejected because it showed somebody in a TSF, like, flight suit. Not even one of those, like, kind of transparent ones. Like, just a normal flight suit. And it decided it was too much for YouTube. So I wasn't going to take any chances with that. I apologize, but hey, get the game yourself if you want to have the full ecchi. But now we're here after kind of having a big snafu about stolen food and like smuggled food into the squad, where Asumi kind of took the side of the bros and like kind of just said like, look, just keep it to yourself kind of a thing. Make sure you don't get caught. So we're going to see. I'm a little concerned that's going to come back to bite us, but I also have to concede that there are some things that aren't worth fighting on. You know, like there are some battlefields that aren't worth dying on, and that's one I think that she probably made the right call ultimately. But I could see it blowing up in her face, so we're gonna see. But we're also preparing for the test with the instructors, which will be a fascinating breakdown into what this squad actually is capable of. So let's get started, shall we? Basic training and running in the morning, lectures and simulation centers in the afternoon, followed by practice with actual TSFs in the East Fuji training grounds. To end the day, we do hand-to-hand combat drills, and then it is even more running at Hakurio base until nighttime. Our day starts with running and ends with running. That's what life has been for us surface pilot cadets for the past several weeks. Haven't seen Instructor Jinguji at the bath since our fateful encounter, and ever since that day, her hazing became even more intense. Frankly, I have no idea why. At this point, all I can do is grit my teeth and bear with it as best I can. At least things seem to be going better with the squad, and knowledge of an illegal channel of goods was our secret. A secret that reinforced our bonds. Everything was going according to plan, or so I wish I could say. Sadly, my willpower was lacking. I was the one who suggested this compromise as a way to managing my squad mates, and yet, to my surprise, it was me who ended up getting caught in the flow. The squad's overall mood seems to have improved. Fujisawa has gradually become less confrontational, and Takamiya has stopped trying to force her way into everything. Our personal relationships have also improved considerably. I only went along with the plan due to my selfish concerns, but I'd never felt this close to other people with the exception of my sisters. That's good. That's good. I think maybe this is where I belong. Aww, Asumi.
ほら、いすみスタートラインに戻る時も走るんだよ歩きながら休むな
Hi.
はい教官殿
That being said, there was only one thing definitely not going the way I expected. Miura. Despite the organic additions to her diet, her physical strength had barely improved. To the contrary, I'd say her stamina and pain threshold have decreased. Is this because of her accumulated fatigue? Or maybe the issue lies with her frail constitution? Whatever may be the cause, it doesn't matter. Miura hasn't given up, and we're doing all we can to support her. Oh boy. Okay, we're doing push-ups. I was like, are we like about to pass out? Yes.
声が震えてるぞもう30回追加だクソどもめ
Sheesh.
だけ舐めてくれるんだ貴様ら。最初からやり直しだ。
I would not do well in these conditions.
この程度で情けない声を出すな。もっと増やしてほしいのか？あ？
Her father can't work, and her mother is forced to take care of the whole family. Miura continues to struggle, fueled only by her single-minded desire to support her family. Of course, I can empathize with her. Although her family situation is completely unlike mine. I want to help her, but in doing so, maybe I'm trying to fill my own void? Nothing works, though. This is mentally exhausting, draining. Miura prefers to defer to others. Instead of thinking about whether things are working out or not, it's more comfortable for her to just follow Takamiya's training regime. No matter how tired she was, she's never taken a day off. And Takamiya is starting to worry. The more Miura focuses on her additional training, and the more Takamiya worries about her lack of improvement. As optimistic as Takamiya is, it's getting to her. Gosh darn it, then. There's gotta be something else there.
だらだらすんな三浦。お笑いが板についてきたじゃねえか。いよいよ吉本に入門か？
いいえ、入門しません。
どうした苦しいか藤沢。もう限界か。ほおずき野郎のクソになりたいのか？
いいえ、教官殿。おいおい、助教に対してなんだその面。貴様のねじ曲がった性格がにじみ出てるぞ。分隊長に似てきたのか。
So, okay, I don't even know what she's trying to say. Is that trying to say that Isumi is like a bad squad leader? Is she saying Fujisawa is a bad person? Or are they saying, is she trying to attack both of them at the same time? Fetch, man.
違います、教官殿。聞いたか、いすみ。喜べ。貴様の部下は小学生並みの判断力を持ってる。
Yes?
はい、教官殿。貴様のねじ曲がった性格を見抜いている。羨ましいぞ、いすみ。私の候補生は揃いも揃ってクソだからな。ありがとうございます、教官殿。生意気な口を聞くな。つべこべ言わずにもっと早く走れ。もっともっともっと早くだ。
Dang.
はい、教官殿。
Uh-oh.
また貴様か三浦。早く立て。
ほら、いすみ。F 分隊のお荷物がまたおねんねのご様子だぞ。さっさと起こしてこい。はい、教官殿。
Come on, Miura. You can do it. You can do it. Come on, I believe in you. You can do this.
竹宮どう？大丈夫。疲労骨折や捻挫じゃないみたい。そうか。よかった。
Come on, Miura. Butt drop, you gotta do this.
前とは逆の足。ずっと無意識にかばってたのが負担がかかってたみたいだね。訓練は続けられそうにないな。
No, no, no. You're gonna make the same mistake you did last time.
私
Let her try. Let her try.
無理だよ、三浦。今は休まなきゃ。ここで体壊す意味なんてないよ。ここ頑張りすぎだよ。ごめん、三浦。私のミスだ。マッサージしてたのに気づいてあげられなかった。
Okay, come on. I get it. This is touching, and I'm glad you all care. But can't you remember what happened last time? You've got to get her up. Like the instructors will give her a break, but you've got to get her up.
プロのトレーナーじゃないんだから仕方がないわよ。
Here it comes, and they also need to defer the decision to their instructor.
もう走るのは無理だよ。休む許可もらわないと。
Hang on.
私教官呼んでくる。
That's not gonna work. Glad everyone else is remembering a bit. Are you out of your mind, Fujisawa? You can't let the instructor see her like this.
報告しろ。はっ。三浦候補生が左足と同じく左股関節の痛みを訴えています。私は
Oh, he must have rolled it.
見せてみろ。
You know this is actually really, really dire because Marimo is not being like drill sergeant mode right now. She will be there soon, but right now she's actually sounding concerned. I think she might be out of the program.
Miura, 貴様には転科を勧告する。
Yeah.
貴様はもうこれ以上動けまい。こうして訓練を滞らせるのはもう最後にしろ。こうなった以上、貴様はもはや他の候補生にとっての害毒だ。せめてもの情けだ。自ら転科申請しろ。そうすれば経歴を汚すことも。
Oh, that's a tough one. Oh, no.
待ってください、教官殿。そんなの納得できません。よせ、竹宮。
Don't try to appeal to her emotions. She won't listen.
三浦候補生は基礎訓練に合格してるんですよ。戦術機協定に問題があっての勧告ならわかりますが、これでは納得いきません。竹宮、発言を許可した覚えはないが。もう戦術機協定に入ってるのに、なんで今さら体力が理由なんですか。藤沢、やめろ。こんなただ体をぶっ壊すことが目的みたいな訓練で成果を命じるなんてひどすぎます。
I don't know. Oh, it's one of those really big dilemmas, especially in a war. Can you really afford to let people like live their dreams? It sounds sucky, but it's true. I do want to believe that people can overcome weaknesses, they can overcome barriers, and they can become incredible at what they do, but it's not the fate of all of us to just become incredible at what we want to be. I mean, I've already been in the point where I've had dreams that have been shattered by life's twists and turns. I've made choices. Granted, I made the choices that I believe were right, but I had to sacrifice some dreams in order to get there. It's kind of a reality of life, and like the reality might be she might not be great for this program. I understand why she wants to be here, and I also am glad that her friends are supporting her and that her squad mates are her friends, but I don't know. She might be happier somewhere else in the military. I think she's getting good advice here, but I also think she has to make that choice, and at least Marimo is giving her the option, saying like, look, you can't have this happen again. If this happens again, I'm kicking you out because I have to. It's part of the regulations and the expectations of this program. But I'm going to give you an option to leave on your own, and you can then make the best choices from there. That's something that's good, and I think that's kind of what we need to see here, is that like the instructor, instead of this time being super aggressive and forcing her to like push her limits, she's instead taking the more like teacher, motherly type role where she's saying, look, you really should consider leaving because I can't be merciful next time.
まったくひどいのは隊長だけかと思えば F 分隊は揃いも揃ってクソばかりだな。神宮寺教官、お願いします。三浦をやめさせないでください。貴様ら竹宮、いい加減にしろ。教官への報告や進言は分隊長である私の仕事だぞ。しゃばるな。失礼しました、教官殿。先ほどは私の所見を報告しましたが、まだ本人の確認を行っていません。
Good point, good point.
何？私の独断で三浦候補生の限界は決められません。 確認の許可を。
Okay, Sumi did learn a little bit. I still think she's making critical mistakes, but I do like this.
小賢しい。いいだろう。許可する。はっ。
Alright, come on, Miura.
ミュラ、まだ走れるか。ちょっとイズミ、何言ってんのよ。
Shush. Why are you guys so upset? This is literally the best thing. Alright. I be like, Miura, I believe in you. I don't want you to hurt yourself, but I believe in you. Let's go. She's got a point. Like, even Fujisawa's seeing it now. Come on, Takamiya. You're so sweet. Like, listen, for once, you've gotta watch this.
もう一度確認する。走れるのね。
Okay.
報告します。三浦候補生は訓練継続可能です。以上。なるほど。では聞くわ。私はすでに三浦に勧告している。貴様にそれを覆す権限があるというの？
Nope. And she never claimed to. She just said, this is my report.
は、権限はありません。だったら貴様の行動は一体何だ？わかりやすく説明した方が身のためだぞ。
Because I believe in her.
は、教官殿の勧告は三浦が訓練を続行できない場合のものと理解しています。
And if she decides that she's going to keep going, then she should remember. Then this is something that should be taken into advisement in the future.
三浦候補生は訓練に復帰します。したがって英士育成のガイドなどどこにも存在いたしません。
She's got a point. Oh, the Miura does not sound good.
だとすればなぜ私をここへ呼んだ？
Because I don't have the authority to actually make a final decision.
私の任務を停滞させてまでこの三文芝居を見せたかったとでも？
Right.
申し訳ありません。私が分隊長の許可もなく勝手に行動しました。
藤沢、発言は許可してないぞ。私が知りたいのは事実だ。猿芝居じゃない。いすみ、藤沢の言ったことは本当か？は、私の能力不足です。その通りだ。貴様と貴様の分隊は全くなっちゃない。申し訳ありません。この程度の人数を掌握できないとは貴様の指揮官適性は最低だ。何も分かっちゃいない。
There's a lot of text for what she said, but fetch.
指揮官が背負う責任の重さをたっぷり味わわせてやろう。
Oh, this isn't gonna be good.
は、いすみ、肺のを下ろし胸で追え。三浦。はい。教官殿。いすみにおぶされ、この頭でっかちのクソに貴様たち部下の重みを教えてやるんだ。
Ooh. Oh.
三浦、さっさと教官殿の命令に従え。上官命令に逆らった竹宮と独断専行した藤沢は三浦の肺のを交代で持て。はい、
教官殿。
ほら急げ。これ以上私を失望させるな。はい、教官殿。
This could break Miura, actually. I think it would break me if I had to, like, be a burden for somebody else, like, so literally, too, and, like, watch them, like, struggle underneath the weight of me. God, I think I would tuck my tail in between my legs. I'd be done. Fetch. As I ran my laps around the 4-kilometer course at the firing range, Miura kept apologizing the whole time. Naturally, I did not have the strength to respond, but Takamiya and Fujisawa, or whoever wasn't carrying the field pack at the moment, kept pushing us forward with words of encouragement. We used up almost all the spare time we had before hitting the baths, but we managed to finish our allotted laps somehow. In the end, we had to take Miura to the medical office, per Assistant Instructor Narisawa's orders. There, we found Instructor Jinguji having a conversation with the medical officer. She looked dead serious. That's when I realized how the cruel way she behaves is all part of her duties. Ugh, fetch, man. This place sucks. As proof, it's only because of Instructor Jinguji's clever punishment scheme that Miura was exempted from today's training session. Should I be happy with how things turned out? Truth is, I don't know. At least for Miura, this is better than having to switch vocations. If Instructor Jinguji wanted to take revenge on the time I spoke up, she could have ordered me to do anything she wanted. There was something different about her today, I'm sure of it. No, nothing different. She's been the same, but I think that she knows that you guys are up against the runner.
ほんと、今日の風呂は地獄だったな。皮がむけた足がしみるっての。
Ugh, gross.
私もさすがに今日は参った。ご飯食べてて吐きそうになったの久しぶりだよ。園子は今晩医務室でお泊まりか。ま、いいよねたまには。ああでもならないとあの子休まないし。うん。
そうね。
Miura's fighting for her family. That much I understand, but what makes her cling so hard to the small sliver of hope?
でもさ、分隊長のへりくつと嫌味な性格が今日ほど頼もしいと思ったことはなかったな。
That's a lot of words.
そうだったね。いやー、あの死神を黙らせたんだから大したものよ。
She knew what she was doing.
竹宮を怒鳴りつけた時は裏切るのかよって一瞬ムカッときたけど、分隊長の嫌味にあんな活用法があるなんてな。まさに毒を持って毒を制すってやつ。
Oh, look at you being all philosophical. Insulting me like it's the most natural thing in the world.
そうやってバカにしてなさい。ま、否定もしないけど。
Though I wouldn't call it sarcasm. Some people don't take kindly to being forced to confront their assumptions with actual facts.
でも、なんか引っかかるんだよな。何が？なんていうか、
Okay, so
今日の
maybe she was
神
weird.
宮寺ちょっと様子がおかしかったっていうかさ。
I think it's kind of the seriousness of it. I think she's really worried that Miura's gonna not do well in the program after graduation. Like, I think she probably can limp her way to graduation, no problem. I could see her doing it, no problem. But I also don't see her being able to handle the pressures of combat. Maybe she would do better if she could have a role. Maybe in support, supply, navy, I don't know, something that's not so confrontational. So Fujisawa knows too. It wasn't just my imagination.
最後さ、分隊長をもっとこき下ろしてくれてもいいところでさっと引いたり、なんだかんだでその子を許したりさ。
くれてもいいってあんた、どういう意味よ。
そうかな。言われてみればそうかもしれないけど、単にいすみの足払いが綺麗に決まっただけなんじゃないの？いやでもさ、あの神宮寺がだよ。一度口にした天下勧告を黙って引っ込めるってありえないっしょ。
No, I think up till now she's kind of used it as a threat, like saying like, hey, if you guys don't think you got what it takes, you should just quit while you're ahead. But I think this was the only time I think she was being really genuine about it. Like, everything Marimo's been doing now has been to push them, to motivate them, to make them break barriers they never thought they had. But I think Marimo's starting to recognize that Miura is at her breaking point, that she is as extended as she can go, and that she probably isn't going to be a very strong or likely surviving candidate. And I think Marimo, as like Marimo's realizing like the reality of like how unprepared Miura is, I think she's trying to save her life. Because Marimo is an amazing instructor at heart. We know she's been heartless in here because she has to be like a boot camp instructor, but we also know how genuine and caring and real she is.
だからそれはイスミが。
いや、実は私もあれには違和感があるのよね。
でしょ？気まぐれでルール変えるなんてヘとも思ってない神宮寺があの分隊長の開始を受け入れるって相当違和感だよ。
藤沢と意見が一致するなんて奇跡的ね。でも本当にそう。あれは私も一か八かの賭けだったから。
Right.
それにさ、今日もそうだし、よくよく考えれば今までだって園子が足を痛めた時なんだかんだ言って走らせてないじゃん。
まあ結果的にはね。
Takamiya, that is pretty naive view. If you think this is over, this isn't over.
結果的って、私らだってぶん殴られもせずに肺脳のペナだけで済んだじゃんさ。
I'm impressed with Fujisawa, to be honest. Normally she can't stop complaining about Instructor Juguji, but I had no idea she was keeping such a close eye on her.
医務室でもさ、先に行って軍医さんになんか真剣に話してたじゃん。あれはさすがに偶然じゃないと思うけどな。
Yeah, I wonder what's gonna happen here. Have they started doing the brainwashing yet? Maybe they're gonna get her into that? So the way Fujisawa thinks about others depends not on how people treat her, but on how they treat Miura. That's why she's giving the instructor so much credit, because she was soft on Miura. Only goes to show Fujisawa genuinely cares about her. To know something like that this late, I really wasn't paying attention.
なんかあんたたちごまかされてない？
Not so much, but I think there's something else going on too. Maybe the doctor's going to formally kick her out of the program, and maybe that's why Marimo did that. Is like she wanted to pound home that she's a burden, and then the doctor was going to say like, look, this is something that is like, maybe he'll fudge the details or he'll make a bigger deal out of it in front of her, and thus she will like just back out on her own.
ごまかされるって？
今日あったことは全部予定外のしごきがなきゃ起きてないんだよ。あんただって前そう言ってブーたれてたよね。
そうだけど。
Takamiya seems down today, while Fujisawa sounds upbeat and complete role reversal.
いすみはどう思った？実際に神宮寺とやりとりしていて。
ああ、そうね。
Maybe Takamiya feels responsible about what happened to Miura, or perhaps.
さっきも言ったけど、今日の教官はいつもとは明らかに違うように感じたわね。それが私たちの変化なのか、状況によるものなのか、原因は見当もつかない。
I'm not sure how the situation was that much different. Like I said, I think it's the reality that Miura probably could graduate, but that she might not be ready for the battlefield.
でも、神宮寺教官の本質は今日の姿に近いってもともと思ってたから、それほど驚きはしなかったけどね。
どういうこと？
つまり、
状況を変えることができる人間が必要だ。
Dodging the issue would be pointless. I'll have to explain it clearly if I want them to understand.
神宮寺教官のいつもの言動は、職責で見せているものであって、彼女の本質じゃないってこと。
Right.
もともと思ってたって、なんで今まで言わなかったの？
それは、言っても理解されないって思ったからよ。
There she is, thinking down on them again. She should have just been telling them.
わかんないよ。それってどういうこと？じゃあ、なんで今、急に話そうと思ったのよ。
さっきの藤沢の話、あれを聞いてて、なんか私、あんたたちのこと何にも知らないんだなって思ったから。
分隊長？
つまりそれって教官の言う通りだったってこと。まさに分隊長失格。この数週間思うところがあって、 私なりに色々変えてきたけど。でもそれって、自分の方法論を変えただけ。あんたたちに迎合する姿勢を見せればなんとかなるって、勘違いしていたのよ。
Oh, yeah. Oof.
あんたたち自身に興味も持たず、個人的な話も聞かず、目や耳に入ってきたものだけで分析分類して、知ったつもりになっていたってこと。それは私が、なんていうか、心の中で、ある種の線引きみたいなものをしてたからだと思う。
Just put all the cards on the table, why don't you?
私は、臆病な性格だから、自分の本質を知られるのが怖いのよ。だから規律や形式にこだわるし、他人と自分の境界をはっきりさせるんだと思う。私はもともと、神宮寺教官と同じ考え方だし、同じタイプなんだと思ってる。だから、正直に告白すると、教官の考えは理解できるし、私は、だから神宮寺教官のように強くなりたい。あの人を超えてそれを証明したいって、そう思ってる。あんたたちを切り捨てるような作戦考えるのも、そういうことなのよ。今までそれを口に出せなかったのは、あんたたちにそれを知られて、統率に影響が出るのが嫌だったからだと思う。自分では平気なつもりだけど、本当は完全に孤立するのが怖いんだと思う。
Fetch, man, this is getting super deep. Holy crap.
分隊長。
そんなの、
竹宮？
そんなの知ってたよ。
竹
Yeah.
宮。
違う。絶対違うよ。泉は神宮寺と同じじゃない。
I don't know, actually. I think they are very similar.
いくら泉がうまく隠しているつもりでも、私はあんたのこと、
竹宮。
確かに似てるところはあるのかもしれない。でも泉は弱者を切り捨てられないじゃない。全然違うよ。
それは、多分、自分を常に弱者の側、というか、被害者の立場に置いて生きてきてしまったからだと思う。
Right.
自分でもよくわかってないんだけど、弱者を切り捨てないのは、決して他人のためじゃないと思う。多分、心のどこかで自分が同じことをされたくないから、弱者を切り捨てる割り切りが持てないんだと思う。
Yeah. By not abandoning others, you think that they might not abandon you.
分隊長、あんた。
What can anyone say? Fetch is like she's freaking bearing her soul here.
そういう意味では、今の私は指揮官に向いていない。究極の選択を迫られた時に、損切りができないから。
Hang on.
私は、神宮寺教官のように強くなりたい。あの人のように。自身を律する強靭な精神を手に入れたいの。
I don't think it was a mistake to support Miura, though.
ダメだよ、泉。あの人はあんたが考えてるような人じゃない。
竹宮。
あの人は大陸で大勢の味方を、弱者を切り捨てることで生き残ってきた人なんだよ。
Ooh, interesting. I can see why she would have that point of view, but I definitely know she's not right there.
見てわからないの？あの人は自分の基準に合わないと思った人間を切り捨てるんだよ。信用とか愛情じゃなく、計算で私たちに接してるんだよ。
No, I wish you could understand. She's not like that at all. But I totally get why Takavia thinks that. Ooh, this is some cool. Gosh darn it, these people. The writer for this just understands how people are locked in their frames of view, their frames of reference. That's something I've just always struggled with. Being able to capture this idea of like understanding exactly what viewpoints people tend to have because of the data they have and not getting it overlapped in my mind with what this character knows. You know, it's something I tend to have spillover when I'm developing conceptuals of characters and various motivations. But man, again, the writing just hits home how powerful it is and just how much thought and talent went into creating this story.
そんなんじゃ絶対に人は育たない。粘り強く辛抱強く見守ってくれる人がいて、それで初めて成長できるんだよ。
You're wrong, Takamiya. Compassion is a luxury we cannot afford. This is not the time for a feel-good story. A bunch of immature women join forces somehow so that they free Japan from the beta? Please. A country doesn't have the leeway to bet on such long odds. A unit can't work together unless all of its members conform to a common standard. Takamiya has been driven away from her hometown. She should understand the realities of war. Instead, she keeps clinging to the fantasy. Why? Why can't she understand? Well, because I don't think she wants to live in a world where she has to accept those parameters, as you put it.
なのにイスミ、あんたはああいう人間になりたいなんて本気で言ってるの？
そうよ、竹宮。私は本気よ。竹宮、あんたの言いたいことはわかる。それにその大切さもやっと理解できた。
Right.
じゃあなんでその大切さが分かったのになんでよ。
Because you deserve to know.
それだけでは足りないからよ。私はつい最近まで個人間の絆や連帯意識の重要性を甘く見ていた。だからそれを積み重ねようとこの数週間必死にやってきたわ。
Dang.
だけどやっぱりそれだけではダメなのよ。一度やってみた今だからそれがはっきりわかる。
But she's not saying that they're invaluable. She's not saying that's not important. I think she still does believe that it's important to have these connections, but she's saying we have to go further than this.
軍という組織では生き残ることは多くの意味で正しいわ。それを15の常識や平時の人間性で解釈するのは全く無意味よ。
Right.
やめてよ。私が聞きたいのはあんた自身の言葉よ、イスミ。いずめの常套句なんかじゃない。
Oh boy.
これは私の言葉よ。私の本心よ。
違うでしょ。あんたはそうやって思考停止してるだけよ。
だったら想像してみなさいよ。大陸の戦場で一人生き残り続ける地獄を、受け入れてほしい仲間に疫病神扱いされる孤独を。
Ooh, yeah. Man, Asumi's got a really interesting perspective.
そんな経験をした人が、そういう人たちが私たちの教官に据えられている意味を、あんたは一度でも考えたことあるの？
あるわよ。だからねじ曲がったんでしょ。私たちに理不尽で非科学的な特訓をさせて、その鬱憤を解消してるのよ。
Interesting. Oh, Fujisawa always seemed like the harsh one, but Takamiya was keeping it all underneath. Now it's bubbling out, and she seems like she's even more upset and angry at her. Oh, spice. The spice is real.
あんたは何も分かってない。
分かってないのはイスミだよ。
All three of you don't know what you're talking about.
待ちなよ、竹宮。
何よ。
あんたさ、自分の存在に疑問持ったことなんて一度もないでしょ。
何よ急に。
それ以前にさ、挫折なんて経験したことすらないでしょ。
That's a bold claim.
あるわよ、挫折くらい。だいたい私は生まれつき体が弱くて。
あのね、言っちゃ悪いけど、生まれついてならそれって日常だろ。どうしようもない運命じゃん。
あんたに何がわかるっていうのよ。
わかんないわよ。でもね、最初からそうなのと、努力してそれが実ってうまくいって、ある日突然突き落とされるのとじゃダメージが大違いなのよ。
Okay. Interesting. Holy cow, that is interesting. So, having struggled every day to get what you need is one thing, but having to have all of your ultimate weaknesses slapped in your face, confronting them and knowing that your failings and shortcomings, beyond your control or not, are going to destroy something that you hold precious, and having to deal with the fact. That is something I don't even know if I've ever had to face, truly. I made mistakes, sure, but I don't think I've ever had to confront them quite on the level that they do here.
しかもあんたは優しい親がずっと見守ってくれてたんでしょ。わかりやすく支えてくれてたんでしょ。生まれのハンデを親と一緒に乗り越えて、その後もずっと見守ってもらって、あんたの人生登りっぱなしだったじゃん。
Oh boy, oh boy. We are either going to come out of this as like having our best unity ever, or we are going to implode.
だからなんだっていうの。
あんたみたいな幸せなやつだけじゃないんだよ、この世に生きてるのは。
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest failings that we do when we talk about storybook endings. Like, it's something I'm kind of terrified of as a parent, because I grew up with all these fantasy stories, right? And we always talk about, and like, one of the failings I think of my parents' generation, many of your parents' generations too, most likely, if you can, I wonder if you can relate to me here, but I grew up being told that if you get a college education, you get a solid job, you pay off your house, you retire when you're in your 50s, and you just live the rest of your life happily. That if you invest in the stock market, that if you like do all these things, checklist these things, that you're gonna have a happy, successful life. The thing is, we can't. There's literally no way for all of us to have a successful, happy life. There's not enough money for all of us to be able to buy a big house with 3 cars and live the American dream, if you're in America, or any kind of dream, really. We can't. It's just not how the world works. The closest we could get to everyone having a happy ending would be some kind of communistic idealism. And frankly, that would mean nobody would be rich, nobody would have the big house with the multi-cars, we'd all just have the same thing. And that's, in some ways, that's a great idea. It's very difficult, and I think impractical in practice, obviously, because it's very easy to corrupt the system. But if you think about just the idea, it sounds nice. Everyone on the same playing field, right? But when everyone's on the same playing field, you don't get to have people who have overachievers or excess. That's just not how that system could ever work. Overachieving and excess is the definition of the American dream. Being able to be one of the top dogs. But you can't have a top dog if the most people can't get to it. There's a really interesting dichotomy in America where there's an interesting language where people will talk about their futures, especially like there was a really cool news article that was highlighted by like Last Week Tonight, which is hilarious because they get some solid great news in a comedy news show. But they talk about there something that was really fascinating, this idea that in American culture, we intrinsically seem to believe that we are all entitled to have and be the very successful elite. This idea of an article that came out where they asked people, what will you do when you earn $1 million? Not if you could ever earn $1 million, not if you like ever had the opportunity to have it, when you have it. This idea that we all are entitled to or have access to $1 million in our future to sit in our bank account and do whatever we want with. But that's not how reality is. That's like 95% of us are never going to even come close to that. Just sitting in a bank account of assets just waiting to be spent on whatever we could please. The world does not work like that, and yet we sometimes get convinced because of a fairy tale that I think was ultimately handed down to us by our parents. Living in an economy that was growing, in a world that was peaceful, in a world where things felt like you could do anything you wanted, and so many people could pull it by the bootstraps and get what they wanted, and you heard all these crazy success stories, and they still happen. There are people who literally start from nothing and become multi-billionaires. There are people who have nothing handed to them, that come from the poorest of the poorest, or from other countries and moving somewhere else, and then they suddenly boom and explode and they become something wonderful and have all this blessing and life come to them. But how about the torrents of people who did the exact same thing and didn't get any of it? What about the people who end up homeless on the street? How many do you think people born homeless? Do you think people are born in poverty and struggling every day just to get enough food on the table? You can be born into that. But do you think that people are born into that and this is what they are their whole lives? Do you think they don't have dreams? Do you think people who are on welfare just want to be on welfare for the rest of their life? That's something that I hear all the time from the more conservative side of my family, who believe that the welfare system is just letting people just not do anything for their whole life and making the rest of us pay for it. They genuinely believe that. Can anybody truly be happy in that lifestyle? Especially when I know from living on welfare for a few years how meager an existence that is. How hard it is to, even with that support, actually do stuff. It's insane. It's insane that people don't understand this. And I think that that's something that I need to help my kids understand. I need to help them understand something that I never was taught, because my parents were never taught it. Because ever since the 50s in America, we've been telling the same lie to all of our kids. The lie that sorry, I'm ranting too long. The lie that you can be successful if you just try hard enough. And if if you're not successful, I guess you just didn't care enough or you weren't passionate enough. That's bullcrap. There are so many people who have all the drive necessary to make things to succeed, to be able to be the billionaires, and they just don't make it happen. It just doesn't happen. Because you know what? Sometimes lightning just doesn't strike you. You could be standing in the middle of a field holding a big rod of iron and waving it around, doing everything you can to make it happen. It might never happen. And there's nothing you can do about that. I think this is something that I really wanted to hear today, ironically, because I think it's just something I've been thinking about unconsciously for years now. And I think this is kind of giving me the words to say it. The words to say the fact that there's nothing wrong with believing and understanding that you make the most of your life and that you can be happy even if you don't get all the cool stuff you always dreamed of having. Because happiness doesn't come from where you are or where you come from. It comes from the joy that you get from the people around you. And it seems odd to be bringing that up here, but I think that's what she's trying to say. Fujisawa is pointing out that, look, just because you want something hard enough doesn't mean you get it. And sometimes you have to accept it, because reality is often crueler than dreams. As a matter of fact, I would say it's always crueler than your dreams, and that's not a problem. Instead, you pick yourself up and you move forward doing the best that you can with what you've been given, and you find happiness, because we all can find happiness regardless of where we are. And that might sound weird coming from somebody who's probably got one of the most secure backgrounds that you'll find. Like, am I rich? No, far from it rich. But I've definitely never been left wanting in my life. And I don't know what your position is. Maybe you have been. Maybe you have been in the most poverty-stricken areas of your entire childhood. Maybe you've been on the brink of starvation. Maybe you currently don't know how you're gonna keep paying your bills. Maybe watching this video for some reason is your glimmer and ray of sunshine, and I'm ruining it for you. But I don't know. I wish I could understand better, because I just don't. Takamiya, I don't know what that feels like. But I think I can understand the conception. I think I can sympathize, and I think I know enough to be able to understand how fragile my bounty and life is, how lucky I am, and how ultimately I don't want my kids feeling like they're entitled to some kind of access to all their dreams. That they have to work their butts off, and they have to make sure that they grab what they can, and that they should never expect the world to just give them what they want. Because that's just not how the world is. And considering the direction things are going, I think it's going to become a far rarer thing for us to just get what we feel like we want and desire. I think that we're heading towards a future that's going to be tougher than it was for our parents. And that's sad, but it's reality. So I don't know if that made any sense, and I probably insulted half a dozen people there. But it was from the heart, so bear with me on that, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, of course. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But please also just let me know what you think. And let's continue this, because we gotta finish this conversation.
あんた、自分が少数派だって自覚あんの？あんたみたいにみんなに好かれる性格になれなかったやつはね、どっか切り捨てて折り合いつけなきゃ生きていけないんだよ。
She's right. And the thing is, like, she's slapping Takamiya with this, but Sumi's getting it full blown in the face too, because is her situation much different? No. Good grief. She could have gone to college and gotten a secure job in life, right?
そんな綺麗な生き様私たちに押し付けてさ、あんた最後まで責任取る覚悟あんの？いざとなったら決めたのは自分だとか言ってケツまくるんじゃないの？
Man, I do think out of all the people, Takamiya and I do have a lot in common. Because I bet you I'd make the same mistakes as she does.
おい貴様ら。
Oh boy. Hi, instructor. Hi. This is gonna be interesting. I wonder how long she was there.
ピーチクパーチク賑やかなことだな。一体何の騒ぎだ？
は、お騒がせして申し訳ありません。本日の反省会を行っていました。
Review session.
ほう、それは首相のことだ。貴様には同情するぞイスミ。状況がまるで見えていないクソどもの世話をする苦労は、私も毎日のように味わっているからな。
Frankly, ma'am, I think they know their place better than I ever thought.
そういう輩に限って、自分に見えている範囲が世界のすべてだと思い込んでいる。
Ooh,
全く
that's
手に負えん。
Takamiya right there. And me, probably me.
望んでここに身を置いたくせに、2ヶ月もしないうちにルールを勝手に解釈し、さも決定事項であるかのような正論を垂れる。
Oh boy, Fujisawa. Oh crap, she's really been paying attention. Uh-oh.
国費で飲み食いしておきながら、やれ人権だ常識だのと、ぶら下がることへの自己正当化には余念がない。
I've never seen the assumption and belief that people should have inalienable human rights thrown as an insult before, but that stings. Oh boy.
そういうダニどもは駆除するに限る。そうは思わんか、イスミ。
What the fetch is she gonna say? What the fetch is she gonna say? By the way, that's an intimidating thumbnail right there. Holy crap.
は、一般論としてはおっしゃる通りです。
Fetch.
ほう、ではこいつらは違うと？
は、そのように確信しております。
Oh. Oh.
なるほど。やはり貴様は分隊長失格だな、イスミ。脳みそに栄養を取られすぎて、目ん玉は退化したらしい。節穴もいいところだ。なあ、藤沢。軍隊ではな、誰の下につくかで、出世も生き死にも決まるんだ。知ってたか？
Oh, she's got a point.
は、知りませんでした。
貴様はイスミと組んだという偶然によって、ただでさえ能天気な人生計画を棒に振ろうとしている。気の毒なことだ。だがな、たった一つだけ、それを回避する方法があるぞ。
Oh no.
イスミを辞めさせればいい。そうすれば、分隊は再編成だ。現段階で可能性ゼロの人生計画が、少なくとも1になるぞ。
So, is she gonna backstab her to make sure she survives, or what?
そうだろう、竹宮。貴様にはよく当たると評判の私の予言を授けてやろう。
Uh-huh. Dang, she knows them so well. How does she know them so well when she doesn't get to spend like personal time with them? That's impressive.
貴様がいくら縁の下でイスミを支えようと、それはすべて無駄に終わる。あれは稀に見る頭でっかちのボンクラだ。貴様らのようなクソガキすら御しきれない無能の性格破綻者だぞ、あいつは。
恐れながら、そうとは思いません。
運が良かったな、竹宮。無許可で口からクソを垂れたことは見逃してやる。私は今、 すこぶる機嫌がいいんだ。
Marimo's scary when she looks like that. She's got the angry eyes, but the smile, that's terrifying. Like, that should send you running. Run away and pretend you don't. Yo.
なぜだと思う？答えていいぞ。
わかりません、教官殿。
おお、そうか。悪かったな、竹宮。すっかり忘れていたよ。畳に頭を打ちつけすぎてたんだったな、貴様は。では教えてやる。なぜ私の機嫌がいいかを。
Go for it.
それはな、私が最も意味嫌う最低最悪のゴミをこの候補生訓練校から追い出すことができるからだ。貴様ら F 分隊全員に任意除隊を命じる。さっさと事務室に行き申請書を作れ。
Oh my gosh.
何をグズグズしている、駆け足だ。
ちょっと待ってください、教官殿。いきなりどういうことな。
そうですよ。なんでそんなことになるかわけわかんない上に、喧嘩じゃなくいきなり任意除隊って。
DOR. So that's like DOR is like to like request to be like out of the military?
喧嘩など絶対させるか。貴様らのような悪性病原菌を帝国軍にばらまくわけにはいかんからな。
That would kill. That would effectively be a dishonorable discharge, and that would kill their prospects for future careers. Like, they would effectively be considered, especially in a time of war, like they'd be considered almost like scum. Like, they'd be lucky if they could even find a stable job.
教官殿、理由は訓練中の抗弁ですか？何の説明もなくいきなりそのような。
三浦の体調不良の原因知りたいか？
Oh no.
これは血液と組織の検査によって判明したんだが、
Uh-oh.
管理外食品の摂取による合成食品成分と当該成分の化学反応およびそれに伴う総合失調。
Wait a minute. Does that make sense though?
三浦の慢性体調不良の原因だ。
I thought the food was a recent thing. Have they been sneaking food this whole time? If that's true, that is horrifying. But I thought it was a more recent thing. So, is she just BSing? So the black market rations are responsible. Dang it! I had no idea they would run into all these tests on her. Didn't see that coming at all.
さて、そろそろ分かったかな？なぜ貴様らに任意除隊という温情処分が下されたか。どうだ竹宮、よく当たるだろう、私の予言は。
What should I do? Sergeant Juguji's actually serious this time. The way things are going, she'll get rid of all of us. I can't let that happen. What the heck am I supposed to do?
いいか貴様ら、甘く考えるなよ。
Fetch. I think this is one of those times where a good leader unfortunately takes responsibility. Maybe tries to save them.
これは皇帝陛下と征夷大将軍、そして国民と帝国軍に対する重大な裏切り行為であり、許しがたい犯罪行為だ。
Think, dang it! I need to come up with something. I have to. I can't let what's most important to me be taken away again.
本来であれば軍警察に引き渡すところだぞ。任意除隊で済まされることをありがたいと思うんだな。
Oh boy.
分かったらさっさと事務室に行け。三浦も体調が回復次第手続きをさせる。
教官殿、発言の。
なんだ、お得意のへりくつはもう通用しないぞ、泉。それとも何か？入手ルートや仲介人を売り渡し責任逃れでもするつもりか？
それで助かってる候補生が何人いると思ってんの？カリノみたいなリスクを負うやつだって世の中には必要なんだよ。実際カリノを神宮寺たちに売るやつは一人もいないじゃんか。
They're not clueless.
それとも部下を売って 自分はとばっちりを受けただけだとでも主張するか。
No.
立場上の責任を負わされているに過ぎないと。
No, the right thing to do is say, like, no, I was aware. I take responsibility. I could have ended it. I didn't. I allowed it to happen. I'm the failure. I'll fill the paperwork. Let them stay. Maybe with a better instructor, maybe with a better squad leader, they will be able to be what they need to be.
分かってると思うけど、全部私がやったことよ。その子は従っていただけ。悪かったわよ。竹宮と分隊長は巻き込みたくなかった。だから秘密にしてたの。
うちは下が多いし、お父さんは病気でお母さんが一人で働いてるから、お給料もらって勉強ができて、私に万が一のことがあっても恩給や遺族年金がある軍隊がいいかなって。
And the thing is, too, assuming you might have, like, I don't think so. If she pulls out from the government, I think she can kiss goodbye her ability to go to university. But she might have a shot. I mean, she had a better shot than all the rest of them.
バラバラになっちゃう地元のみんなが全員一緒に福岡に戻るってのが今の大きな目標だから、 F 分隊が一人も欠けず全員で任官することが私の当面の目標かな。
どんな集体を晒してくれるのか期待しているぞ、いすみ。発言を許可する。
Make my day.
恐れながら、教官殿が先ほどから何をおっしゃっているのか、
Right.
全くわかりません。
なんだと？
これは何かの間違いです。私たちがそのような事件に関わった事実はありません。
Ooh, she's gonna pull on the... Ooh.
なかなか面白い。苦し紛れに開き直りとは、貴様にしては意外なリアクションだな、いすみ。
Interesting.
何のことだかわかりません。ですが、F 分隊が不正に関与していないのは事実です。
Okay.
ほう。では、血液検査の結果という動かぬ証拠はどう説明する？
おそらく捏造です。私たちを貶めようとする何者かによるものと推察します。
何者かだと？
は、そうです。私、あるいは私たちを最も排除したがってる誰かです。
She's gonna use how, like, her vehement treatment of them as a potential smoking gun in the other direction. Because the thing is that without substantial physical evidence, both stories are valid. Granted, Marimo has more pull, so she'd probably get what she wants in the end. But she's trying to build a case saying, like, well, technically, it's just as solid a case as you have.
くだらんな。実にくだらん。何を言い始めるかと思えばその程度か。ふざけてないで、早く事務室に行け！
ふざけてなどいません。
なんだと？
私たちが許されざる犯罪に手を染め、その証拠があるというなら、厳正に処罰するべきです。
何？
そして、同様の犯罪行為を未然に防ぐためにも、世間に公表するべきです。
So she's saying...
見せしめとして、
She's saying that she doubts in the evidence that Miura has, that they have on Miura because she's not making this public. If we end up getting discharged from the army after being punished, that will show up on our records, and anyone who matters will have access to our files. Our lives may well be over then. She has no basis to accuse us and no conclusive evidence to support her claim. She has nothing, but this is the last hand I got left. Instructor Jinguji isn't the kind of person who would allow us to file for our DOR if she had proof we committed a crime, which would normally get the entire unit dismissed. Civilians and the military are two sides of the same coin. It's not because they're smart that their smugglers haven't been caught so far, it's because they're a necessary evil and the people in charge choose to look the other way. During peacetime, the upper brass would never turn a blind eye, but we're at war. People are complex, and it's important to keep an organization running through blind adherence to regulations alone. It's impossible. Something must be going on if she's trying to make us quit the army out of our own free will, something she doesn't want to make public. That's a gamble, but she's clever.
BDU を着用し、射撃場に行け。
Okay, that's in a butt face.
はい。
お望み通り、任意除隊だけでは済まさんぞ。洗いざらい吐かせてやる。
How many hours has it been now? Our perception of time seems to be stretched to infinity. I have no idea what's going on.
遅いぞイスミ、ペースを上げろ。大口叩いてその邪魔か。
はい、教官殿。
The night is humid and sweltering. I feel like I'm puking my lungs out every time I vomit. I'm exhausted, covered in sweat, and my BDU is so damp it clings to my limbs, making it hard to move.
貴様がすべてぶちまけ、除隊申請を出す気になるまで走り続けていいぞ。嬉しいか。
嬉しいです。
It's pure spite now. They're running on pure bile and spite. I've been running all day non-stop. At this point, I can barely feel my legs.
なあイスミ、貴様はかれこれ2時間近く走り詰めだ。そろそろ休んだ方がいいんじゃないか。
いえ、教官。
無理するな。こうも蒸し暑くてはかなわんだろ。冷房の効いた事務室で申請書を書きながら
So evil.
冷たい麦茶でも飲
It's
まんか。
evil.
結構です。
なあイスミ、理不尽だとは思わないか。貴様がこうして指揮官の責任を果たしているというのに、当の三浦は涼しい医務室ですやすや。藤沢と竹宮も今頃部屋でだらけ放題。なぜお前だけがこんな真夜中にそんなに苦しい思いをしなければならないんだ。
Because she stood up to you. Oh.
どうにもならない落ちこぼれが分不相応な望みにこだわり、規律をへとも思わない被害者気取りの嘘つきがそれを助けようと好き勝手やったせいなんだろう。その上弱者を守ることでしか優越感に浸れない理想主義バカが貴様をそそのかしたんだろう。
Ah, this sucks.
私には分かってるぞイスミ。貴様は被害者だ。ろくでなしどものとばっちりを受けているに過ぎない。
いえ、違います。教官。
嘘をつくな偽善者め。貴様の言葉は嘘ばかりだ。上辺だけだ。中身は空っぽだ。貴様は臆病者で嘘つきだ。誰も信じない。本当はあの連中を心底見下している邪魔だとさえ思っている。
違います。違います。教官。
まったく貴様の頑固さには恐れ入った。
Yeah.
止まれ。もう走らなくていい。いい加減給水しなければ本当に死ぬぞ。ついてこい。
Maybe this will be actually a better one. Ah, Sumi. Why?
冷えてはいないが水には変わりない。好きなだけ飲んでいいぞ。ほら遠慮するな。飲まないと死んでしまうぞ。
Gosh darn it.
どうだうまいか。まあ色から言えば麦茶というよりコーヒーだが贅沢は言うなよ。
いえ、教官。
Gosh.
ほら遠慮するな。どんどん飲め。
She's gonna make you puke again.
いいぞ上出来だイスミ。やはり分隊長たるもの 部下に範を示さなければな。だがやはり貴様は上に立つべき器ではない。なぜなら貴様が臆病で弱いからだ。決して他人を信用せず、規律や合理に依存することで自身の脆弱を隠そうとするからだ。組織を優先しているように見せながら、クズどもに弱い自分を投影してしまい、バッサリ切ることができないからだ。貴様のように狡猾で卑怯な人間が上に立つなど言語道断。最も英士にしてはならない危険人物なんだ。さあ全部吐け。そして今すぐやめると言うんだ。
Fetch, man.
やめません。絶対やめせん。
なぜだ。どうしてそこまで意地を張る。そんなに苦痛が好きか。ああ、
ペータ滅ぼし日本に帝国の国民に貢献したいからです。
Fetch, man. I wouldn't be able to do that. I would not. I would have given up.
よくもぬけぬけと。私がそんなちんけな建前を信じるとでも思っているのか。貴様のその姑息さにはヘドが出る。今すぐ罪を認めろ。すべて暴露しろ。やめると言え。
やめません教官殿。
貴様はここに逃げてきたんだ。現実との戦いから逃避してここを選んだに過ぎない。
How does she know that?
違います。強くなると決めたんです。だから
嘘をつくな。貴様は家族の気を引くため当てこすりをしているに過ぎない。クソ甘やかされたひねくれ者だ。ここにはそんなクズの居場所はない。ここは現実に立ち向かう者たちだけが生き残れる場所なんだ。
違います。
ならばなぜ自ら先頭に立って戦える機会を放棄した。なぜ上のステージを選ばない。貴様は狡猾で小賢しく愚かで卑怯な上に臆病でおぞましい。
なんと言われ京都絶対にやめま
ふざけるな。今ここに貴様が存在することが帝国軍に対する冒涜だ。出ていかないつもりならここで殺してやる。
私は強くなる。兵士になるです。
私は絶対に貴様を認めない。貴様はここにいるべきではない。
認めさ
って貴様の代わりなどいくらでもいる。目障りだ。貴様では無理だ。絶対に私の要求には応えられない。もう諦めろ。
答えせ
そこまでだな。
これで分かっただろう。もうここで終わりにしろ。今やめるなら全員任意除隊だけで許してやる。悪いことは言わない。同意しろ。逃避を動機に生き残れる場所ではない。貴様はいずれ多くの友や部下を殺すだろう。帝国に貢献したいなら貴様は軍人ではなく政治家を目指せ。その方が向いている。
Oh, so maybe she genuinely thinks she shouldn't be in the army because of what she can do.
社会経験のない者に理解しろというのは酷かもしれない。だが選別代わりに教えておいてやる。本気で物事を変えようと思うならより高いステージで動かなければ意味がない。底辺では何も変えられないんだ。そして自分より地位も力も持っている者と行動を共にしろ。それが現実的な手段だ。嫌だ。
She's climbing up her.
私にはもうここしか居場所がないんだ。ここ以外にはもう私の居場所はないんだ。だから絶対やめない。絶対やめるものか。だからお願いです、教官。私の居場所奪わないでください。
Fetch.
ここまで来て諦められない。どうしてもあなたがどうしても私から居場所を奪うというなら私はあなたを殺してでもここに残る。
This is all I have. Can't afford to hold back. If I don't go all out, I couldn't show my face to the others again. How could I ever live with myself if I don't overcome this? I must stand my ground or I'll lose everything.
シャワーを浴びて自分の部屋に戻れ。
What?
もういい。早く戻れ。
Huh? What the?
貴様の道行きはおそらく
Yeah.
地獄だぞ。
Yeah, it does. She letting me go? Is this it? Guess there was something she didn't want to make public. Does this mean I was right? Or... I laid still in the middle of the firing range, my mind blank. I don't know for how long I stayed there. My sense of time promptly recovered thanks to the arrival of military boots approaching. Takamiya and Fujisawa were coming my way. The two of them helped me up, took me straight to the instructor's only bath, since Instructor Jinguji had given them permission to do so. On our way there, Takamiya also told me how Miura's blood test came back non-conclusive, that we were cleared from suspicion. So I felt so relieved at hearing the good news I crumbled down on the spot. What little strength I had left in my legs was gone. I could barely move, so Takamiya and Fujisawa helped me get inside the bath, or to be accurate, they went in as well. All three of us entered the shower bolt booth, and together they washed my body, an incident so embarrassing I don't even want to think about it. However, I was thankful to them from the bottom of my heart. While rinsing my back, Fujisawa had remained silent from beginning to end. All of a sudden, she placed the nozzle above her own head. I'd never been this exhausted in my life, so I couldn't muster the energy to be surprised, but I knew she did it to hide her tears. I could feel her head on my back, trembling. That gave her away. Made me realize how utterly bizarre this situation was. When Fujisawa started to cry, Takamiya embraced the two of us tightly and burst into tears as well, as if the floodgates of her heart had cracked open. It's funny because, like, you can picture in your head it would be a very interesting scene to see, but it would absolutely ruin what this is meaning, you know? And again, this is the best stuff. This is the best parts of, like, how human this all is. I don't quite remember if it was because I was relieved, a consequence of my mental exhaustion, or perhaps because it had been so long since I'd felt another person's warmth. But before I realized, Fujisawa and I broke down. In the end, our superiors could not find blame with us. That didn't mean things changed for the better. Come dawn, we would face hell again. The instructor Jinguji remained completely unaffected by the situation. She acted as if she had no recollection of what happened the day before. The only change was that the black market supply route had been closed down for good without incident. Miura returned to the squad 4 days later. We all agreed before not to talk about this episode over again. From the day onward, the topic was off limits. The night, for the first time in my life, I acted on impulse and spoke my mind. To protect what I want, to protect what I deserve, and to protect my squad mates, I did something I'd never done before. I stood defenseless before the enemy. That's when I came to a realization. From any pretense, I discovered what I cared about the most. Remembering it now, I think it was not quite that clear to me at the time. However, on that day, I broke free of the cocoon I had been hiding inside all along. And then, that fateful day came. That day that would change everything. That was a glimpse back into the future. Several days later. Okay, I thought we were done. So now, we get to the meat and potatoes of this. Oh my gosh, that wasn't I'm gonna have to go take a break. My brain, my goodness. That was intense, but fetch, it was good. Definitely a longer episode, but man, it was well earned. I don't even know how to explain it very well. There's so much there, so much good character growth, development, and just understanding. Again, I don't comprehend how these writers are so good. They're so good. I'm in awe. I'm in awe of the ability to craft such fantastic stories. And in such a short amount of time, too. Like, relatively. You know? It's mind-blowing. And I'm so grateful to be able to hear. And I'm glad you get to share it with me. I hope you find it interesting to kind of see me and listen to my ranting. I thank you for being here. Being here is really the best thing you can be doing, and I'm grateful for that. I'd love to have you hear your comments in the comment section below. Also, Discord's a great place to go if you want to collaborate, talk with some other people about these things as well. You can also recommend future visual novels and all kinds of stuff, and I'm there, so you'll probably hear from me occasionally. I also have a channel, Patreon, if you want to help this channel continue to grow and succeed in the future. It'd be wonderful to have you there. I've got some perks coming up in the future too, so just keep that in mind. But ultimately, thank you for being here, because that's the biggest support you could ever give, and I'm so grateful that you're willing to give it, to share this time with me, and to be able to share your thoughts as well. It's wonderful, and I do not deserve it at all. I have been blessed with so much, and I have so many good things in my life. I am grateful for every little bit I get, and so thank you. Thank you again. And until the next video watching me, I will see me in next. I'll see you there.